Hello, this is the second video I'm making on September 19th, 2017 to English 5388. To continue responding to the work I've seen from you from the week 3 reading questions, one of them asked how you could characterize Robert Miller's use of sources, and almost everyone gave me the kinds of responses I was expecting. Usually saying that there were two categories of sources, which is kind of the way I see it too, primary and secondary, or historical and academic, or something like that, some division that makes sense. Some people went into more detail to say that the primary or the historical sources were things like pamphlets, newspaper accounts. You're going to see some legislative documents coming up. So these are historical artifacts from the antebellum period that Robert Miller was analyzing, that she was doing a critical reading, a rhetorical analysis, really, of what these documents meant and sorting out rhetorical patterns that she saw. And the other main group of sources that she used were much more contemporary. You could call these academic sources, you could call them secondary sources, because they, like Robert Miller, are doing critical readings of maybe the same material, maybe the same documents that she was looking at. Maybe theirs are about rhetoric and they're not about the same documents at all, but in some way they are, they're also doing the critical work of looking at some primary documents and analyzing those. And those are the ones, they're usually books in her cases. Articles are often used in rhetorical studies too, that are from the university presses, and you can order these books from a library, whereas you can't order a primary source from a library usually. You may be able to get a reproduction of it. And I wanted to point out that the pro-slavery book and that rhetorical situation, that situation in which demagoguery was a huge impact on the time, that's a case study. That's a book-length case study. In Demagoguery and Democracy, there's one case study, and I think she calls it that in the chapter, it's part of the debate over Japanese internment. Yeah, Demagoguery, a case study. And that's when you had Earl Warren forwarding the argument that yes, the Japanese should be interned, and it's because put into internment camps, and it's because of their motives in buying real estate where they are, and they're living, next to power plants and things like that. So that chapter was also a case study in demagoguery. Looking forward in your work for the semester, not to the next paper, but down the road, I just want to make sure everyone is aware you're going to need to write your own case study. And so you're going to have to locate some primary sources yourself. You can't just rely on our course texts, which so far have been secondary sources on their own. So this is a critical work, this is a critical work. This one has tons of primary material that it relies on, and I think it's pretty easy to see how she uses that primary material. So you'll need to be thinking about what you want to do for your case study. That's a lot of the responses I gave on the discussion board from week 2 are, that's a controversial issue, or I can see where demagoguery would be at play in that issue. You could research that, and that topic could be your case study. So ideally, it's something that you know a lot about. The real only requirement is that the case study that you do, you need to have some primary documents. This could be the text of a speech. Maybe not only one speech for the entire paper that you need to write, but for example, a speech, and then you act as the critic doing an analysis showing that this has elements of demagoguery in it. Okay, so and then the question about evidence will be familiar to you when you read it on the assignment page, which I posted for week 4, but it's also on the week 6 module because that's when it's due. before the paper is due, you have a peer review of it that's due at the end of week 5. So after you finish Fanatical Schemes this week, you have a week off from reading and you just work on your Fanatical Schemes paper. So I wanted to say more about that. Well, the peer review counts as a short assignment grade, and technological note, this is the first time I'm going to have experience with the peer review function in Canvas. I'm excited about it because Blackboard just did not have a good way to do peer review, and so it was always kind of complicated, and people would get upset and it wouldn't work out for everyone. But I still think it's really important to try to do sometimes. So you have a peer review assignment that's a totally separate grade, and it's a much smaller grade than your final paper submission, and the final paper submission is the only one that I'll look at. Okay, and I also wanted to point out that this upcoming paper, the Fanatical Schemes paper, the only reading you need to do is the course reading that you've already done. You don't need to do any outside research, so please don't take your time doing that unless you get an inspiration during the course of writing this paper and you want to start locating some primary documents for down the road for your own case study paper. So, but this is the only paper you're going to write where you don't have to do any research and you're only dealing with secondary sources, because you will need to find and analyze primary sources for the papers going forward. Okay, I think that's it. I am not totally thrilled with the formatting of the discussion board. It's hard for me to see who's replied to who and where a brand new post starts off, and I'm not sure why, so I might play around with the settings to make that appear clearer to me, and I hope to you guys too. I'm also not really happy with the way that I've asked for your submissions for the reading question. It's nothing to do with you guys. It's that you enter in your text in the text box, and I can only comment in a totally separate box. So I can't do a comment to, say, okay, question 3, and then drawing a line, and here's my comment out to the side like you would do track changes or responding to Word documents. So I think I'm probably going to experiment with having you submit your reading questions in future weeks, not this one because you might have started, submitting it as a Word document, which you don't have to work in Word. If you have questions about how you can do that, then get with me, because I'm not going to make you buy a copy of Word or subscribe to Word, however they're doing it now. I might have another video responding to the week 3 discussion board posts, maybe later this week or early next week. If you need guidance toward your Fanatical Schemes paper, then please let me know. Read the assignment closely. You can talk amongst yourselves about how you go about doing that, but let me know if you have questions, obviously. And if there are the similar questions coming up again and again, I'm very happy to do some kind of text or video transmission to you about what I'm looking for in that paper. But for the rest of this week, good luck finishing up the pro-slavery book and answering your reading questions and writing your discussion board posts before Sunday the 24th. And I'll talk to you again soon.